guys, I'm Pauly T and welcome to the Heroin Chronicles. Today I'm going to talk about when I went back to Germany. After doing my stint up in Uri, I came back down to Dublin. I got a job. I think I stayed for a couple of months. I worked in Peter Marks out in Blanchardstown, and yeah, I remember I was doing okay out there for a couple of months, and I started using the usual behaviour, coming in late, rushing off on my lunch break, spending time in the toilet in the afternoon, trying to get a hit when I should be out working, and yeah, I ended up having a run in and falling out there with some of the staff, and eventually I got sacked. I got sacked from that job, and I went straight back to Germany, but this time I went back alone. I went back and I wanted to straighten my life out when I went back to Germany that time. And so I took a job in a hair salon in Munich. And I quickly became a very popular hairdresser. I was doing really well over there for about a year and a half. I worked on some movies. I got involved with a couple of lads playing music, and I joined a rock band called the Dancing Chromosomes as their singer and lyricist, and that was a great time in my life. I was working doing hair in the movies for some of the top models in Europe at the time. I was working on film, the various film studios. I worked with some famous German actors and actresses, and what else? I had my rock band. Yeah, I had my rock band. So I was living my rock and roll fancy lifestyle through these talented musicians, putting up with my terrible singing. But yeah, we pulled it off. And so I got to do a lot of things in my life, that I may not have otherwise, because I was on drugs. But anyway, I'd stayed off the drugs for about a year and a half over there, and I was visited by a friend of mine from Dublin, very close friend, who I grew up with. He was living in London, and he'd been using gear over in London, and he came over to take a few days sabbatical with me. He wanted to try and get off the gear, and he wanted to go back clean to London. That was the plan. And unfortunately it didn't work out like that, because he came over, we both used for a couple of days. He had a bit of gear with him. And then he went back, and all of a sudden I'm back in on the gear. I'd had a few months clean, and I was doing well, working hard, and my pal came over and we both used. And so that was okay. Past about 6 months later, I get a call from him from London, and he's telling me he has HIV. Of course I was worried because we'd used together, but I was putting it to the back of my mind. Then eventually I made a test about 6 months later when I was up in Hamburg, and I'd sprained my wrist. And the doc had noticed some old track marks, and he asked me if I'd ever used intravenously. I told him I did. And he asked me would I like to make an AIDS test, and I said yeah. And that came back positive on me. And I remember when I was told that at 22 of HIV, I didn't know how to deal with that. It was just information. I didn't know what to do with it. I just saw it as a death sentence. I asked the doctor how long I had to live, and he said between 5 and 7 years if I looked after myself. So my thinking at the time was, well, I'm not going to be able to give up smoking, drinking, drugs, eat healthy, exercise and all that for 5 years of life. My reckon was I'd rather have a couple of years doing it my way. And that's what I did. From the day I was told that information in the doctor's office in Hamburg, I just went straight to the Reaperbahn. I was up in Hamburg at the time. I got a taxi to the Reaperbahn, and I pulled the first black dude I saw and asked him was he packing, and he was. And yeah, I scored on the Reaperbahn straight away. Went back to my digs and locked myself in there for a few days, just using. And I suppose all drive and ambition just left me at that point in my life. I was living over in Germany. I was only 22, and I'd been told my life was over. So I just went hell for leather and drugs. You know, I just went hell for leather and drugs, and I started to live a life of wild abandon. I was open about my status to people. I told them, look, this is me, this is what's going on. And that's how I live my life. Having HIV had never stopped me finding girlfriends, having a normal life, as it were. And, you know, I'm living with that now 35 years. I was only supposed to have 7 years to live. I actually got to 20 years before I had to use any, or 15 years with the virus before I had to use any medication. And I'm one of the first people in this country on the triple therapy. And when I came back to Dublin, 4 or 5 years after that, I came back to Dublin about 27, 28. And eventually, I think I was about 29, 30 when I told my parents. And that, but it was a huge unburdening because I carried that. They would wonder why I didn't have any ambition or why I wasn't trying to get something together in life. And I just was carrying this big dark secret, my life's over, you know. And I think, yeah, there was a fear of ever trying to get something together in case I could never complete it. But that kept me stagnant, because here I am now, like 58, 35 years after, you know, finding out that news, and I'm still alive. If anything, my health has been compromised from the tablets I'm on, the tablets that I take for my HIV. And to be honest, I take them my own way. I don't take them with the rules of the hospital, because I take enough to stay untransmittable, which is undetectable. So I take enough to keep those around me safe, and to keep me from, to keep my viral load under 50 copies, which is undetectable. And if you're undetectable, it's untransferable. So today, I can say that, but I've lived with the uncertainty for so long, always wondering, you know, am I going to die? Am I going to get ill? Yeah, I lived with that for so long in my life that you sort of, you lose that fear of death. And in fact, if you have any just fear of living, there's no fear of death. I'm getting clean, finally getting clean and getting clarity in my mind. I realise it's fear of life I'd have, not a fear of death. And that realisation alone was to enable me to sort of meet things head on, to let go of fear and embrace love, a higher vibration. And yeah, I aspire to live a loving, compassionate life today, because it's the opposite of the life that I lived, which is one of selfishness, and because addiction is somewhat a selfish state. You know, once it gets its claws into you, you lose all choice. You lose the freedom to choose. But it's usually a selfish state that gets you into that predicament in the first place, because you're just looking after you, you're feeding you with the drug, giving you, it's just all about me, while hurting all those around me, and shutting myself and my mind, my heart, and my ability to empathise with others, shutting all that down for my goals, just so I don't have to feel the fear and the anxiety of life. That's what my addiction was about. I can't speak for other people. But when I stopped using, I had to face my fear, and I had to look at my own nature intently to know who I am. And I believe, having come from the depths of darkness with heroin, with the lifestyle I had, that HIV was a great gift to me. A gift because it made me want to get real. I wanted to know what the truth was. I didn't want to check out and not know anything about life and just die on drugs. I wanted to know if there was a bit of truth there. And I searched and I looked in religions and I read and I practiced, I meditated. I got high and I got low. I went inside, outside. I was up. I turned myself inside out looking for the truth, looking for spirituality, looking for something I could hold on to, something sacred. And I do believe that having HIV afforded me an opportunity to look intensely, deeply inside myself and to be able to see what was real. Living in Germany was a great time in my life. I met some wonderful people over there. Yeah, I met some wonderful people there. I have some good stories from that place, which we'll get into down the road. But yeah, this one was basically being told I was HIV at a young age, and the effect that had on me, the effect that had on my psyche, and how I dealt with that and carried that. How that's made me grow as a person, and what that's given me. Yeah, I have to say I got so much more out of being HIV positive than it took from me. It was my addiction that really took from me. And HIV was like a wake-up call for me to look internally. And it started that journey for me. And I'm ever grateful for the experience of being able to have that opportunity to look deeply, intently into who I am, so that I could know what I'm about. It's been a long road and a difficult struggle, but I've come to a great sense of peace of mind since I managed to be able to put down the hard drugs and give myself a break. Thanks for listening. This is Paul Tracy, Cold Turkey. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you with a few tracks from the Dancing Chromosomes playing in Munich in 1989. And yeah, enjoy. Meanwhile, stay blessed.
He was the man of you stand. good looking, looking good. Sweet by the fire, the radio plays. Sounds good. I'm not sure what the song is. And you can hear it back I said, dancing. Brothers like us, you gotta work. Listen to some evil mothers. Tell them straight out of turn. I'm living like a red man. Open up their eyes. Until I really won't feel me. I like to touch your time. I see things. Yeah.